because of COVID-19. Played only one game in that entire month. They managed to get in 9 in January. They went 2-7 and 1-8 in February and March. So trying to build things would be a nice building block if they can win a game in the ACC tournament here tonight against the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. So we are set to go. Great to have you with us for the last game of the day. It is great to be back at the ACC tournament.
It absolutely is. You consider where we were a year ago at this time, Obi, you and I at the ACC tournament before the world changed to forever. And now we're back to basketball, which is a bit of normalcy for all of us.
Isn't that the truth? Mucius with the ball, the 6'8" junior. A lot will run through him for the Demon Deacons. Had a long possession on the first one. Notre Dame 4-1 in the ACC tournament in Greensboro. As you look at their starting five, led by Prentiss Hubb, the point guard. Krzyzewski averaging 14 points, 8 rebounds a game. And Durham, well, he can really block a shot as he turns and fires, and he knocks in the first one.
But that's really where he's improved. This year he's become much more of a scorer. 18 points for him in the first matchup against Wake Forest. You see a double-figure score, 10.5 points per game, but more importantly 61% from the field. And a special game, 7 for 9 against Wake Forest with 9 rebounds. So Juwan Durham having a lot of confidence against this team, feeling like he can have a big one.
Beautifully done by Williamson on the baseline for the reverse to tie this one. Daivien Williamson coming in at 13 and 3 assists a game. Really leads the team in a bunch of categories. Had a huge game against North Carolina where he scored 27.
And this is one of the things you see from Notre Dame early. They like to go to Juwan Durham and give him his opportunities on the block.
Steve Forbes, head coach for the Demon Deacons, his first year. He won 130 games over 5 years at East Tennessee State, won 30 last year. So this is a shock to the system for him to have only 6 wins going into the conference tournament after 30 wins a season ago.
And also take into consideration, he got this job very late, so really didn't have much of an opportunity to build a rapport with his team as Ian DeBose picks up the offensive foul, driving to the rim. And DeBose, who had a strong senior game for him at Lawrence Joel Coliseum, was in attack mode against Georgia Tech. But this time attack mode a little too aggressive, lowering that left shoulder right into Nate Krzyzewski.
Getting it downstairs, and that's the early script here for Notre Dame, trying to get it inside underneath to the big guy Durham at 6'11".
You see the first 3 offensive possessions for Notre Dame. The ball has ended up in Juwan Durham's hands. Once he scored, once he's missed. And the other was a turnover. So I'm sure we'll see Mike Bray's team start to play a little freer on the perimeter, but that's one of the areas he wants to get the ball to Durham early to see if they can get him established and force Wake Forest to have to help.
Oguama with a bucket on the other end. Big for the Demon Deacons at 6'9". Here's Hubb to let fly. Up top for Williamson, 6'2" junior. He's a Winston-Salem native. Mucius wants the ball in tight, following his own miss a couple of times, and one. He'll be at the line. Well, he just kept on staying with it, and that paid off big time.
Well, that's one of the things Notre Dame will switch off, and then when you get an advantage from a mismatch standpoint, Isaiah Mucius at 6'8", going against Prentiss Hubb at 6'1", and Mucius missed the first opportunity but continued to stick with it and gets the second chance opportunity, and now an opportunity to make it 3.
Nice, had some very nice games. He had 27 against North Carolina. We mentioned Williamson did too. They lost that game. So yeah, part of the deep frustration of the season the Demon Deacons have had.
Yeah, and that was a game where Isaiah Mucius hit 7 3-pointers. And to start the season, he struggled from beyond the 3-point arc. Steve Forbes wasn't sure if he was a 3-point shooter, but I think he kind of convinced his coach that he was capable when you go out and knock down 7.
That might do it. That might be the tipping point. Jonah Antonio in the game. Here's Witt running a play inside. Great defense, but Oguama going up strong, and they're looking to get it to him early too. So Wake with a pretty decent start out in front 7-2. Oguama will be at the line where he makes 67%.
And Obi, when you've had the type of season that Wake Forest has had, oftentimes you wonder what level of effort is your team going to come into a tournament setting like this. And so far, Steve Forbes has to be happy with the way his team has responded after a loss on senior day against Georgia Tech at home. They have come back in and gotten off to a great start, as you mentioned, the first 3.5 minutes of this game, holding a 5-point lead over a team that had a hot finish to the regular season.
Yeah, they have not, talking about Wake Forest, they've not won in a month. 12-point loss at the hands of red-hot Georgia Tech, which I don't think anybody wants to play in this tournament. A 7-game losing skid for the Demon Deacons, leading at 8-2 early. Notre Dame trying to get going. Here's Hubb, thought about the three. Cormac Ryan can really fill it. Showed that against the Duke Blue Devils when he hit 28 points. Witt will kick it out. Here's Mucius. Little contact, lays it in. Very determined move into the paint, and a timeout. A 10-2 lead for Wake Forest. When we come back, backing Mike Bray. We'll explain when we return to Greensboro. ACC Network Basketball is brought to you by New York Life, helping people act on their love for 175 years. Back in Greensboro at the ACC tournament, all part of Champ Week. Notre Dame scuffling early. And Mike Bray, well, his team, right before that great win over FSU, Allison Williams, they got smoked pretty good by NC State. And then a lot of support came out by Irish alums.
Yeah, Dave, Mike Bray called it drama week. It's been a frustrating season for the Irish, and that's led to some frustration with the fans during that NC State game. Chants of "Fire Mike Bray" rang out, and that did not sit well with a lot of his former players. Pat Connaughton, one of them, he took to Twitter and he said, look, it's always darkest before dawn. Don't be so quick to forget what the year was like before we won our ACC championship and who pulled us through it. Of course, they won it here in Greensboro in 2015, and Bray did address this with his team. He felt the need to, and he took a lighthearted approach. He told his guys, hey, there's two types of coaches, those that have been fired and those that are going to be. Don't you worry about me. Go out there, play hard for senior night, and they did that against Florida State.
Yeah, great win and an upset against a top 25 opponent. Battle on the boards. And Mucius will take the hit. Back to that tweet by Pat Connaughton. Of course, had a terrific career at Notre Dame. Show him some damn respect, he said at the end of that tweet. With all that Coach Bray has achieved in 21 years, including trips to the Elite Eight in 2015 and 16.
And I love seeing the players coming to Mike Bray's back, but you would expect that because, of course, what he's been able to do. And, you know, when you think about the 2014 season before they won it that Pat Connaughton's talking about was the first year for Notre Dame in the ACC. Jaron Grant wasn't with the team in the second semester, and they struggled that year. But, you know, one of the people that I talked to actually about this was ACC Network play-by-play Mike Monaco, who was a Notre Dame alum, and talked about what it was like for students, not just basketball players, at Notre Dame, and the relationship that Mike Bray has with them. You know, bringing food to dorms, etc. But more importantly, he was shocked by the fact that those students would do something like that and really appalled by it simply because of the relationship that Mike Bray has had with the student body at Notre Dame.
That, by the way, was sheer beauty by Trey Wertz. I mean, handling the ball and then firing it up. He's averaging 11 points per game over the last 5. Notre Dame looking for a little more electricity like that. 12-7 Wake Forest.
And Trey Wertz can definitely score the basketball, but what he also does is helps Prentiss Hubb with another ball handler on the floor. So we see Wertz get into his bag. You say pretty ball handling, Obi. I agree. Between the legs twice, step back over Ismail Massoud, and Trey Wertz has that ability to score. You look at what he did at Santa Clara. 12 points per game throughout his career there, and had a huge game when he first became eligible at Notre Dame. Went for 27 in a game, so then was injured afterwards. Has a number of injuries throughout the seasons that have held him back a bit, but he's been a welcome addition to Mike Bray.
Well, shooting three, Isaiah Mucius. And Notre Dame going back to the bench and bringing on Jogo, the 6'8" senior. Leschewski in a little bit of trouble now. He's picked up 2 quick fouls. This one on a guy shooting a 3-pointer. That allows Wake to open up the lead. Leschewski so far pretty quiet. 6'10" junior, averaging 14 points, 8 rebounds, taking a big leap forward from a year ago. In traffic, Hubb can't connect.
And Leschewski was in that most improved player conversation as well, along with Justin Champagnie and Matthew Hurt. But the second half of the season for Leschewski hasn't been nearly as productive as the first half. You're talking about a young man who went for 25 against Virginia, had a 28-point game, had a 27-point game against Georgia Tech. But only twice in the last 11 games for him has he taken double-figure field goal attempts. So Leschewski not as aggressive, and definitely nowhere near as aggressive as Isaiah Mucius has been to start this game.
Mucius playing really well early and looking for the basketball. Jogo back up top for Prentiss Hubb. They're looking for a hot hand. Goodwin with a floater in the lane. And no whistle on that play. 16-7 Wake. Down the lane, Williamson for 2, and Wake looking really confident here in the first half.
They really are. The Demon Deacons look comfortable on this court here. And of course, Winston-Salem only about a 25-minute ride from Greensboro, so not much travel time, not much that the Demon Deacons have to go through to get here. But you can tell by the way that they're coming out to play, they're not ready for their season to end either. Trying to pick up their first win for Steve Forbes in the ACC tournament.
Tipped out of bounds by Notre Dame. Wake on top, 18-7.
And Daivien Williamson getting out in semi-transition. Although Notre Dame's defense is back, he still takes advantage of the fact that not enough defensive eyes on the transfer from Winston-Salem, as Daivien Williamson off to a good start as well for the Deacs.
Well, they have met earlier this season back in February, and Notre Dame really walked right by them. 79-58. That was at South Bend. Massoud can't get it to go, and it's out again off the Fighting Irish with 12:41 to go in the first half. So Witt puts it in. He'll drive it into the paint. The one-hander won't drop. They'll get the second effort. They're not going to wait around. And the Irish in need of a run. Jogo mishandling that pass. Well, tough pass down around the ankles. Long one by DuBose, and they just keep on raining shots. 21-7 Wake Forest.
And it's been all about the Demon Deacons early as they have tripled up the Fighting Irish. Isaiah Mucius in attack mode, finding his way to the rim. Daivien Williamson doing the same. 21-7 Demon Deacons.
Thursday. Who is your player of the year? You get a vote in this, Corey. Who did you pick?
Well, if that were a test, I got a 50. I got 3 out of 6 right. It's Scotty Barnes being 2 of my 3 correct. And of course, I voted for Jose Alvarado as Defensive Player of the Year. Player of the Year, my vote was Sam Hauser. I thought what he did at Louisville, and going into the game, my Player of the Year was Carlik Jones. But the way that Kihei Clark locked up Carlik Jones and the way that Sam Hauser took over that game with a crowd on the road, he earned it to me. I thought he had a very consistent year, probably, behind Justin Champagnie. But with his team winning and getting the #1 seed in the ACC tournament, Sam Hauser was my vote.
I remember you were saying, I'm going to wait as late as I possibly can to, cast my own vote. And player of the year, I thought, was really tough to pick. And this is no reflection on, what Moses has done. He's been incredible. But I think he really won the award in the last 2 weeks of the season, didn't he?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And you and I both talked with Josh Pastner in mid-February. I remember doing the Virginia game on February 10th, and then you and I talked to him later. There was no talk of Moses Wright as ACC Player of the Year at that time. And again, you're talking less than a month ago, and all of a sudden, 6 great games to end the season, and Moses Wright is the ACC Player of the Year. And again, I love Moses Wright, and I'm not upset about him winning the award at all.
Not at all.
Congratulations to him. And again, there was no wrong answer to that one. I think it was a multiple choice question where more than one of them could have been correct.
Yeah, definitely. I think you talked to 5 different people covering the ACC tournament here in Greensboro. You get 5 different answers maybe on who should be the Player of the Year. Nice touch there by Jogo. He had an outstanding game against Florida State. He was really active in that one. Born in Canada, but the family is from Yugoslavia and escaped the Civil War there in the 1990s, fleeing to Ontario. So 23-14 Wake. They've played a very smooth first half to this point, halfway through it.
With zone defense now for Notre Dame, and one of the things, this Wake Forest team will shoot the 3. They live by it, and when you've got them going in off glass from the top of the key, you will take your chances from beyond the arc.
That was with the shot clock winding down. He just heaved it up there off the window. You're living right when that's happening. Foul on that play as Durham will be going to the line. This is worth another look.
Yeah, if Ian DeBose hadn't already made a 3 from the top of the key, we'd tell him take this off. It does not count. However, we are a believer in Ian DeBose's ability to shoot the 3. So if he goes glass every now and then, we'll make it count.
Yeah, his back was to us as Durham goes to the line where he makes 67%. But we did get the reaction from Mike Bray walking away, and it was one of those "you got to be kidding me" things, turning and walking away. That said it all there.
Well, one of the things we know, and again, we've got great coaches in the ACC, all up and down the conference. But when you start to talk about personality, I'm not sure that there's anyone that you rather sit down and have a conversation with than Mike Bray. Every time I'm on Zoom with Mike Bray, Allen has to come, of course, his amazing SID has to come pull him away, because we can talk to Mike Bray forever. And again, most of it's not even about basketball. And so that's the type of relationship that we have with Mike Bray. And one of the guys that we love the most to be able to talk to, whether it's in person at shoot around or even on Zoom, and always provides a positive outlook, as Allison talked about privately.
Durham rolling inside, and he'll get 2. They continue to funnel the basketball to the big guy, 29-18. I couldn't agree more about Mike Bray and that big personality of his. And I'll tell you guys getting involved in this thing right now is the freshman from Raleigh, Carter Witt. He's made a couple of shots here in the last couple of minutes. Yeah,
and Wake Forest has not slowed down at all offensively. The zone has not affected them as they've continued to fire on all cylinders on the offensive end and getting more and more players in the mix offensively. But their defense is giving them opportunities to get out in transition where they're playing very free.
Williamson had to adjust the shot because Durham came over and threatened to block it. That's on the backside of the backboard, 31-18. Carter Witt unmistakable with that hair flying. Got a little Pete Maravich going there.
Yeah, Carter Witt, who should be getting ready for his final exams at high school, but right now reclassing up and joining Steve Forbes in the Wake Forest Demon Deacons for the 2nd semester of what would be his senior year in high school. Graduated early to join Wake, and again starting for this Wake Forest team, learning on the fly. And for a group that didn't have really much of a non-conference schedule or a summer, you've got to give Wake a lot of credit for not only the wins that they have this season, but more importantly for the way they've approached this ACC tournament.
Three-pointer by Wertz, the junior out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Earlier this season, he just blitzed Purdue for 27, so he could really get it rolling. Under 8 minutes here in the first half, and an impressive first half by the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. Nicely done there on the bounce by Masood, the 6'8" sophomore, for 2.
Strong move by Masood, and Masood, who's knocked down 8 3-pointers in the game this year himself, has the ability also to finish at the rim. Showed us a bit of that going over the shot blocker in Durham.
Cormac Ryan pretty much automatic from there. This one's starting to tighten up. When we come back, we'll look at some of the tickets that have been punched. That's on the way next. Wake Forest, good form early against Notre Dame in Greensboro. I mean, you finish at #1 and undefeated. Well, Champ Week, tickets punched. And later on tonight, as mentioned, it's Gonzaga, the #1 team, undefeated, up against BYU and the WCC, and we'll see if they stay undefeated at the end of play tonight.
And of course, Coach Wes Miller and UNCG winning. Now we're on their actual home floor as they're already going dancing. So congrats to Wes.
In transition, Notre Dame looking to get a good run going. Leschewski getting back in. Preseason AP #1 teams to win the national championship. Duke did it 96. In 92, Kentucky in 96. UConn in 04, North Carolina in 09. You were talking about UNLV in this Gonzaga team this season and the comparisons between the two in your mind.
I believe that they are very similar to UNLV 30 years ago, when you consider UNLV played in the national championship in both 1990 and 1991, where they lost to Duke in 91, going into that game undefeated. But when you think about a mid-major program, honestly, in a small conference out west that doesn't play against the best competition during conference play, but does play great competition in the non-conference and preseason, that's what Gonzaga reminds me of. And I thought that they were very good to start the season, and of course preseason #1. But when Andrew Nembhard was declared eligible, when all transfers were declared eligible, that took Gonzaga to a different level. Now you've got Jalen Suggs and Nembhard in the backcourt, Corey Kispert up front, as well as Drew Timme. That team is special.
Allison?
Yeah, to Corey's point, I talked to Mark Few and several of the Gonzaga players over Zoom last week, and that's what Few said. When they found out that Nembhard was eligible, it elevated this team from being good/great to special, and he knows that it's all come together for them this year. But what stood out to me was that when they found out Nembhard was eligible and he sat down with Jalen Suggs, knowing that this would take minutes away from Suggs, he just got the biggest smile on his face. He was like, yes, coach, that is awesome. I am all in, because he knew it would make the team better. And that's the culture that has been established by Mark Few over the years at Gonzaga. They are such a special group. It was so fun to chat with them over Zoom. Can't wait to see what they do in the tournament.
And you can tell they've got a great feeling about themselves. Allison Oguama with his second foul to put Durham at the line. And Oguama will head to the bench. 33-27 Wake. So Notre Dame tightening this thing up the last 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, Notre Dame starting to find some rhythm on their offensive end of the floor. And we talk about transfers and making an impact. Cormac Ryan has been that guy, as well as Trey Wertz. Both those players transferring into Notre Dame, and now impact performers for Mike Bray and the Fighting Irish. And both of them having a hand in this comeback here in the first half.
Yeah, Cormac Ryan transferred to Notre Dame from Stanford. Now, what confidence you have to have academically to be able to pull that off, right? I am not familiar with that.
Well, let's start with the confidence you have to go to Stanford from the beginning. Okay,
that's number one.
We'll start there, and then to go to Notre Dame after that. I mean, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but
yeah, you're in a different league, right? Well, you went to Virginia, so you have no complaints. But I mean, for the rest of us, academic mortals, to go Stanford to Notre Dame, that's kind of like thumbing your nose at the rest of the world. Like, look what I can do, because he can. Amazing. Out of the corner, nice touch there by Masood to make this one 36-30 Wake Forest.
And we talked about Masood's ability to knock down the three. He made 8 3-pointers against Pittsburgh. 31 points for him in that game. So Wake Forest has a number of guys that can stretch it from beyond the arc, and they love to use the three, and they have done it very well here so far.
Wertz, that didn't touch anything. And the Demon Deacons trying to add on to their lead here with 4.5 minutes to go in the half. They had led throughout pretty much. Tipped and controlled. Yeah, they've had a ton of those.
That's been the difference in this game. The offensive rebounding in Wake Forest has been all over the glass. Isaiah Mucius and, of course, Cormac Ryan well within the restricted area. Not even close on that possession.
You know, Notre Dame has not rebounded well all season long. It's been a true Achilles heel for Mike Bray, but at one point it was 15-2 Wake Forest on the glass and 8-0 on the offensive glass. The officials disagreed on this call.
Well, one thing, and I have to correct this, because normally when you're looking at the block charge, there has to be the secondary defender coming over and getting outside of the restricted area. However, it's the primary defender this time, so you can actually have your feet in the restricted area and it still be an offensive foul. As you see, Ryan does have his foot on the line, but he is now the primary defender. Isaiah Mucius is, of course, arguing with the official about the fact that he was on the line, but because he's the primary defender on that, it can be an offensive foul, and a great job by these officials getting together as they call it double foul.
So they called a double foul, and this goes to the possession arrow. So
now,
Notre Dame has that.
I wasn't aware of that. I knew that they could go back and change that because it was a primary defender, but I wasn't aware of the double foul. And if I'm Cormac Ryan, I'm wondering, what did I do?
On the attack, Hubb with a kick out. Shot clock inside 10, and a loose ball and a whistle. Well, Thursday we have some great lacrosse coming your way on the ACC network. On the women's side, High Point against number 12 Duke. 5, it'll be number 2 North Carolina against number 8 Virginia at 7 p.m. Wake Forest leading here 36-30. Last game of the day. And just delighted to be able to say we are calling the ACC tournament 2021. It ended so abruptly a year ago, almost to the day. Dubose giving it out to Williamson. Under 4 minutes to go in the half. Boy, that's a tough shot. He's made a few of those tonight. Dubose with 2.
Yeah, Steve Forbes says that he's one of the very few guys that they have that can make a play off the bounce. They missed him while he was injured, spent about 2 months on the shelf. But right now, Ian Dubose making his presence felt in his first ever ACC tournament game, attacking the rim and finishing to add to the lead for the Demon Deacons.
ACC Network Basketball brought to you by Zaxby's. Hand-breaded chicken and fresh ingredients made to order only. Game number 3, our finale of day number 1. Miami victory over Pitt, 79-73 to get us started. An impressive win for Duke. They had 15 threes, knocking out Boston College 86-51. Allison?
Well, Dave, one of the big challenge for Steve Forbes in his first year as head coach at Wake Forest is trying to build relationships with these guys amidst a pandemic. I mean, consider he didn't meet many of them in person until the end of July. But something he's always done as a head coach and has served him well this year is he asks his guys to every day before 1 o'clock come into the office and check in with the coach. It can be any coach, and he just wants them to come by, say hello, and it allows them to develop that relationship away from the practice court. And he says it's really helped these guys get to know the players that they're coaching.
He's got a great personality as well. You know, it's tough when you're 6-15 to be too happy about much, but you replace Danny Manning, as you mentioned, pretty late in April. Danny coaching the Demon Deacons for 6 seasons, 5 years, very successful seasons at East Tennessee State and 30 wins a year ago, where he was coach of the year. And looking to knock off Notre Dame here in game number 1 for him in the ACC tournament.
After Notre Dame made this a close game, Wake Forest on an 8-0 run over the last 2:45. And give the Demon Deacons credit for responding. Once Notre Dame started to find a rhythm on the offensive end of the floor.
Doing a pretty good job holding on to the basketball. Forbes said at one point middle of the year, he said, turnovers are our kryptonite. If they can hang on to it, they give themselves a chance. They've also done a really good job in the glass. Mucius can't find a range there.
In ACC play, Wake Forest came in with 56 more turnovers than they had assists, but right now only 1 turnover thus far in this game. So 100% correct on that one, Obi.
Cormac Ryan kept on churning and banked that one in. That's a hoop that Notre Dame really needed. Under 2 minutes to go before halftime here in this first round matchup.
The problem for Notre Dame is when a team gets going and builds some momentum on the offensive end of the floor, they have a hard time stopping them, as Ismail Massoud steps out and knocks down another 3. And you can see right now Wake Forest is confident in their offense because they're not getting much resistance from the Notre Dame defense.
Hubb steps back with a triple. No. So the Demon Deacons with an opportunity to add to that advantage, and blocked from behind by Jogo as he stuck right with him. And a shovel for Ryan, and they run the play all the way to the other end for 2.
And defense turning into offense for Notre Dame. A big time block by Jogo on that possession, but as Mucius goes down, it gives Notre Dame numbers. And they get the easy basket. Cormac Ryan off to a good start for him. 9 first half points.
Yeah, he can get it cooking. 28 against Duke in that great win for them. And lost out of bounds by Wake Forest. Massoud gave it up.
And Nikola Jogo with the block. And the block starts the break. Prentiss Hubb with a nice feed to Ryan. And now 4 unanswered points by Notre Dame. Still a 10-point game, though, as Ryan, we look at him, a good first half for him in this one, but nothing like the first half he had at Cameron Indoor, where he went for 21 in the first half against the Blue Devils.
Ryan catches, fires, got it. Nothing but net with the triple. So they're able to get inside 10 and really make this much closer than it felt like it was going to be for much of that half. 44-37. Wake can hold for a final shot here. Down to 3 seconds to get off a shot. The heave well short. And that'll do it for the first half, as Wake will walk to the locker room on top of Notre Dame. 44-37 at the break. Now Wake with an impressive first half. That's their most first half points in ACC play this season.
And Wake Forest with 2 guys in double figures. Ian DeBose knocking down the 3, even though it goes glass. But he has been spectacular here in the first half, attacking the rim as well, finishing through the contact. 11 points for DeBose, and Daivien Williamson also in double figures for the Demon Deacons, attacking the basket. And finding the range from beyond the 3-point arc, as both these teams have helped their team build a lead.
Steve Forbes has to be happy. He's joined by Allie Williams.
Hey, Coach Forbes, your team's been able to put together some nice runs in that first half. What's been working well for you during those stretches?
You know, when we were scoring, I thought we were really moving the ball and cutting. And then we got on the offensive glass and got some easy baskets. You know, I just thought we really did a good job of sharing. And then I thought we kind of quit that when they went zone and we stood a little bit, but then we got it back going again. But really, truthfully, the reason why we had to lead was we were defending. And then, you know, Notre Dame's a good offensive team. They started making some shots.
What'd you like about your defense in that first half?
I thought we were pretty well connected for the most part. I thought we got a little tired, but our team needs to stay in those gaps and strip and rip on those drives. And I thought for a lot of time we did, but then when we didn't, they got easy baskets.
Thanks, Coach Forbes.
All right, thank you.
You like that. Strip and rip on those drives. Thanks, Allison. We're at halftime of the last game of the day here at the ACC tournament in Greensboro. Second half coming up. Notre Dame and Wake Forest.
Odukale had a career-high 28 points.
He had a monster day. He was efficient, but this is a problem. They could not guard Miami off the bounce. Cam McGusty gets the look to the 10 and the foul. Fouled 28 free throws shot by Miami. They could not defend the Pitt Panthers without fouling or keeping guys out of the lane. Had a chance, though. Tie game here. Scramble late. Elijah Olani, the transfer from Stony Brook, drops it off. They're going to go on to win. An impressive performance by Miami. And again, the Pitt team just did not do enough. They did not bring the fight. And Justin Champagny, rough night.
Miami wins it 79-73. They will play Clemson tomorrow. Duke, Boston College, the second game of the day, midway through the first half. Duke on top by 8 and booze. How about DJ Stewart knocking down the threes?
Great opening to the ACC tournament for him. He was knocking down threes. I think he had 3 in the first half. Really got the Blue Devils going offensively. They kept it pouring on. Just a great, I like that big fella, Mark Williams. I just like how they set the tone tonight.
They set the tone early, and they kept on delivering. We mentioned Mark Williams. He had a great day. So did Jordan Goldwire. Another 3, a season-high 3-pointers for them with 15 as Duke.
Second half, Williamson has led the charge for the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. He has 10. On the other side for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, Cormac Ryan has kept pace and then a little bit more with 12. He's given them a nice lift. 5 for 7 from the field, 44-37 at halftime. Wake Forest looking forward to a good competitive second 20 minutes. Dave O'Brien and Corey Alexander with you. Corey, your thoughts on the first half?
Well, I honestly wasn't expecting for Wake Forest to come out and blitz Notre Dame the way they was. They had a 21-7 lead early in this game. Notre Dame coming into the tournament with momentum. Wake Forest not, but anything can happen in this ACC tournament. We find that out every year, and give Wake Forest credit for approaching this game the right way.
Wake with their most points in an ACC game in the first half this season. And a red flag for Notre Dame. Prentiss Hubb, the star guard, no points in the first half. He's 0 for 5. Wake gets the basketball to begin the second half. Ryan collects the rebound. Notre Dame won easily in South Bend when they took on Wake Forest earlier this season, 79-58. This has been an entirely different story.
And Cormac Ryan getting the start here in the second half.
Let's go to Allison.
Well, OB, the majority of the focus at the half for Notre Dame on defense. Mike Bray telling his guys they have to lock in defensively for the next 20 minutes, be better guarding Wake through their motion. And he said it's going to come down to the compete drill, which is a drill they do in practice, and they don't stop until they get the stop. He needs them to play defense for the entirety of the shot clock every time they're on that end of the floor.
Allie, thank you very much. Nate Laszewski was in a little bit of trouble early in the game. Really pretty quiet. Came in at 14 points, 8 rebounds. He just missed that shot. And he's had a pretty tough night thus far. It's another one the Irish have to get going if they're going to have a chance in this one. Way downtown, but off the back iron. No good by Dubose, who had a fine first half. Contact there, an offensive foul.
And give Ian DeBose credit, getting back and getting in position. You see moving, and you can still be moving in established legal guarding position as he does. Trey Wertz lowers the shoulder, and just like that, it's going to be an offensive foul going the other direction. Great play by DeBose, getting back and setting up defensively.
Now swished in by Carter Witt. Meanwhile, 3 personal fouls on Trey Wertz of Notre Dame, and that's a development. He's back to chase.
And you mentioned the 2 leading scorers for Notre Dame unable to get going. Prentiss Hubb, who's averaged over 21 a game over his last 3 games, had 22 points in that big win over Florida State. Yet to make a field goal.
Yeah, with the theft, and Wertz will get hit and draw the foul. 6'5" junior. And the son of a sports reporter. His dad Langston writes for the Charlotte Observer. So Wake opening up a 10-point lead.
Wertz out of Providence Day in Charlotte, upset about the fact that he missed a point-blank layup, gets the opportunity for 2 free throws, but should be shooting for 1 after making that layup.
And he'll drop in number 1. Well, Thursday, 10 a.m. on the ACC Network, an exclusive coverage of the Clemson Pro Day workouts from the indoor practice facility. Trevor Lawrence will not be there. Of course, he had his Pro Day workout on February the 12th, but the other draft-eligible Tigers get to showcase their skills for NFL scouts. That is one big-time facility. Been in there a couple of times myself. Did not throw a football, nobody cared, but it was really, really impressive.
I was about to ask, did you toss around the old big skin or did you just lift weights?
No, sir.
What was your mission once you went into the facility?
Throwing around, little iron, and then got out of there. You didn't want to embarrass anybody. 47-39 Wake, and Oguama at the line. Odi Oguama, 6'9", from Raleigh, North Carolina. Meanwhile, Krzyzewski just picked up his 3rd foul for Notre Dame. He's had a very difficult night.
He has that, and Wertz, of course, you see, not excited about his play either, as they both check out of the game. Dane Goodwin and Nikola Jogos check back in, and right now, Wake Forest continues to stay at arm's length from Notre Dame because Notre Dame cannot get stops. At some point, as Allison mentioned earlier, Notre Dame's going to have to be able to get some stops against this Wake Forest team, or Wake Forest will be the team advancing on to play tomorrow. Prentiss Hubb knocking down his first shot.
Yeah, could be big indeed. Finally breaking through. That's 15 points a game, Corey, and 6 assists to boot. And he's been silenced to this point.
But his production even greater than that over the last 3 games. 21.3 as Isaiah Mucius is able to answer on that possession, knocking down another 3.
Back up to 10. Ryan off the fake. Mucius first points since 13:54 left in the first half.
You got a great game.
Bring him alive.
Anything you can do, I can do better. Prentiss Hubb with the step back 3, knocking it down for his first basket on the night. But on the other end of the floor, nice kick by Carter Witt. Isaiah Mucius knocking down the 3, his first 3. And Mucius has been very aggressive. 14 field goal attempts for him to go along with his 14 points.
Up tied up, gave up the dribble. Krzyzewski back in. Ryan on the attack and did not get it off in time. No basket, a shot clock violation.
And you see Mike Bray recognizing that he can only go so long without getting Nate Krzyzewski back in this game and allowing him to find some type of offensive rhythm. And Notre Dame, which is very rare, 6 turnovers in comparison to 3 for Wake Forest. And I'm sure if there were any numbers that anyone looked at in this game, that would be the one that you would not guess, that Notre Dame would have twice the number of turnovers that Wake Forest has at this stage of the game.
Very surprising. Usually don't turn it over very much, and they don't foul very much. That one airmailed. It's going to be kicked out of play. So 16:52 to go, and Wake will have the basketball with Carter Witt, the freshman from Raleigh, to put it in. Witt will launch and hit it. Boy, that was a confident looking triple.
Well, we talked about in the first half, the longer that Wake Forest was able to play at this level offensively, the more confidence they would build. And you see now as we get into the second half, Carter Witt, Ian DeBose, Daivien Williamson, all these guys, Isaiah Mucius, much more confidence on the offensive end of the floor here in the second half. And they are outrunning and stretching this lead out to 15 over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Now, this was a crafty pass and the finish by Mucius.
Well, this is the reason why Steve Forbes wanted Carter Witt to join the team in December. He knows that he's a true point guard that knows how to find his teammates and knock down threes as well. Back-to-back great possessions for Carter Witt, giving Wake Forest its largest lead of the game.
And it grows even more, 58-42. And Witt leading the charge here for Wake Forest. A 9-0 run over the last minute and a half. Hubb trying to bring him back, but a misfire.
And Notre Dame has to be careful of not to just fire threes. Of course, they're a three-point shooting team. They want to take good threes. But don't just go firing threes thinking that you're going to make up a 16-point deficit on one possession. If they can't get stops, they can't get back into this game.
Goodwin banks one in on the drive. He's another Fighting Irish shooter who hasn't shot much tonight. And his first two comes in averaging 12 points and 5 rebounds. So another one, Corey, who's been very silent, courtesy of the Demon Deacons defense.
But one of the things that Dane Goodwin does for this team, he attacks the basket, gets to the free throw line. He's the one guy for Notre Dame that really makes a living through contact. And he hasn't had much of that as well. 86% from him at the line. But the problem area for Notre Dame has been on this end of the floor.
Timeout, 15:24 left. Wake looking sharp. And when we come back after the commercial break, always great to see Jay Billis and Dan Schulman. That's not them. That's a little,
are you
little
sure?
too hairy.
Are you sure that's not them?
But they've been here all day long, by the way.
And that's how their hair looks after being here for an entire day.
After being here for 8 or 9 hours. That might be right. 10-2 run here for Wake Forest. Jay and Dan will have the night sessions. Durham will fire and knock that down, and Notre Dame needed that shot.
And that's one of the areas where Juwan Durham has grown as a player. You know, until this season, I had no idea he had that in his game, but he's been a consistent shooter out to about 17 feet. And normally Notre Dame starts off games trying to play through him. They may need to do more of that in the second half to try to slow down Wake Forest from getting up and down the floor.
Long distance, and that misses ugly. But a second effort. Boy, they've been doing that a lot. He's on the line, so they'll give it right back to the Fighting Irish. But offensive rebounding, the Demon Deacons have owned this game.
They really have, and the effort there by Guama, just wanting the basketball more, stepping on the sideline, is the only way that Notre Dame gets the possession back. But the 12-3 advantage on offensive rebounds have been a telling story for the effort given by Wake Forest in this game.
Ryan, not there. Wake on top, 59-46. And able to add on to that, and boy, they're looking smooth offensively.
And you can just see how much confidence Wake Forest is playing with in this game after getting off to such a great start. And Notre Dame is not a great defensive team, so they haven't had much success trying to slow down the Demon Deacons.
On target, Nicola Jogo, the 6'8" senior. He has half a dozen points, 61-49.
And OB in a 12-point game, one of the things that you have to concern yourself with is, you know, of course, getting stops, but also this Notre Dame team. You know, Mike Bray says he gives his team permission to get 80 every night. And he feels like because they're not a great defensive team, that's what they have to do to be able to win. And right now, they're a long way away from 80.
Wake had to heave it, never got to that rim. And a shot clock violation with 13 minutes to go. Notre Dame with the scoring struggles. Hubb with only 3. Leschewski with 2. He's been in foul trouble. Goodwin only 2 points for him.
But when you look at those numbers and you talk about trying to get to 80, you're going to need those 3 guys, your 3 double-figure scores, to be able to come up and put points on the board if you're going to have any chance of being successful. And the other thing you cannot do is turn the basketball over, which uncharacteristically Notre Dame has done again. Now there's 7th turnover in this game.
Leschewski, you know, not even a forced turnover. That just spit right out of his hand. He's had a very rough night. Kick outside for Williamson, and nothing but net from 3-point land.
And against the zone, you have to identify the shooters, especially once you get the basketball in the painted area. Great passers find shooters on the perimeter. And that's exactly what happened to Notre Dame's defense.
Goodwin with an answer there out of the corner. His own triple. He hits 36% there, 64 to 52.
Both these teams shooting well from beyond the three-point line. The problem for Notre Dame is they can't afford at this point to trade baskets with Wake Forest.
Jogo up top for Hubb. Durham with the touch into the paint. That's how the game started for them. And he actually played well in the initial few minutes, but he cooled off, and so did the Fighting Irish. Beautifully moved, but a great block by Durham. Hubb to penetrate and blows by everybody for the lay-in.
And that will be too easy, according to Steve Forbes, when you got to get back and get your defense set. You know Prentiss Hubb has a green light. The last thing you want is to give him an opportunity to get an easy one. No resistance at the rim for Wake Forest.
With the pass. And Leshevsky will bat that one. And they're going to say off of Wake Forest. Make that a timeout. Jay Billis and Dan Championship Hub for everything you need to know about the ACC tournament, including exclusive Chalk Talks, highlights, games, and prizes. Accessible from the ACC mobile app or ACCChampHub.com. You know, the fans that are in the building from time to time, especially when Wake has done something, you know, momentous, you've heard them. It's a wonderful sound to hear that again. Even if it's not in the numbers we're used to, it's a beautiful sound.
Well, we mentioned Wake Forest only about 25-minute drive from Greensboro Coliseum.
No basket. 64-54 Wake Forest. With 11:07 to go. 3 fouls on Dubose. We're going to have to reset the clock. It's great to see some fans here. You know, a few thousand will be allowed in over the course of the tournament. And you know this, if the Duke Blue Devils continue to win, more and more Duke fans are going to be here. Goodwin trying to pound it inside with a little turnaround, hits it.
And that's Goodwin's game. Attacking the painted area, putting pressure on the defense to stop him at the rim. He's a 36% three-point shooter, but he does more of his damage in that area and getting to the free throw line.
Witt on the baseline. Williamson swooping in for two. Beautiful move.
And that really has been the area for Wake Forest. They've been able to excel whenever Notre Dame will make a run. You've got guys like Williamson and DeBose who have been able to go up and make a big play attacking the rim. As Daivien Williamson has now scored 15 or more in 4 of the last 5 games. And just a nice individual play going to his left, finishing off the glass, beating Dane Goodwin to the basket to make it a double-digit lead once again.
Becoming more of a scorer. We mentioned he had 27 against Carolina, but 22 against NC State, 19 against Louisville.
And guys, Williamson came with Forbes from East Tennessee State, and the guys I talked to for Wake said he really was that bridge between the players and the coach at the beginning of this season. And he'd warn them, like, all right, coach is in a mood, you better be on your toes today, he's going to be feisty out there. And he helped kind of be like a buffer between them. Forbes joked it was good having him because I could just yell at him when I'd get really mad and he would know how to take it. But he's been a great asset for this team, and one that Forbes didn't quite know if he wanted to come with him at first, but certainly glad he did.
Steve Forbes in year 1. I'll tell you something else about Steve. When he wants to be heard, he has no trouble with that at all. You can hear him all over this arena when he screams out, "Get it to him."
Absolutely. We've heard that on a number of possessions. But to Allison's point, one of the things that made it beneficial also for Daivien Williamson coming to Wake Forest is he's from Winston-Salem. And so when you're the hometown guy coming back, I'm sure he's had to show Coach Forbes a couple of areas and where to buy a house and where to live and things like that within his city. And so that made it so much, you know, more valuable to be able to bring Daivien Williamson home. And of course, he's a CP3 guy. Seen him in a number of shooting contests with my guy John Adams. So a lot of ties in the Winston-Salem area, which the familiarity, I'm sure, has helped Daivien Williamson.
Krzyzewski with a pass late in the shot clock, and they make the basket anyway. Goodwin down underneath for two, 66-58. Goodwin with 9 points, all in this half, Corey.
And we showed a graphic earlier about the 3 leading scorers for Notre Dame, and just like that, Goodwin has been able to get going, but neither Hubb nor Krzyzewski has, as Wake Forest continues to find those gaps in the zone. Nice find from Williamson as Isaiah Mucius is able to finish through the contact of Krzyzewski. Krzyzewski picks up his 4th foul. And Mucius with an opportunity for the and one.
Not a whole lot of contact there, but Mucius, as you mentioned, another foul. I should say Krzyzewski, another foul. And the 6'10" junior in some trouble. And Mucius to the line. Krzyzewski with 4. Wertz has 4 for Notre Dame. And Krzyzewski has to head to the bench. Ryan lets fly and collects his own miss. Goes back inside for 2.
And at this point, Notre Dame not having a problem on the offensive end of the floor. Their problems are existing on the defensive end of the floor, as we see Cormac Ryan going back, grimacing, holding his lower back. And for his performance, he's been great thus far, but you see him gimpy running up and down the floor.
Jogo steps right into the triple. Bottomed it up. Ryan now down on a knee in agony. He's had all sorts of ankle trouble this year, but this is about a side or his back. And he's in agony on the floor right now at 8 minutes to go. See if we can find that injury and where he got nicked up here. But Cormac Ryan, the sophomore from New York, is down. And take a look. We're going to take the break and see how he's doing when we return. 69-63. Irish making a run. We give you a look at what is to come. Obviously, this one is still up in the air. Championship game on Saturday, 8:30 on ESPN with Dan Schulman and Jay Billis. Lots of basketball tomorrow, tipping off at noontime. Syracuse and NC State. And some bubble teams. Louisville at 13-6. Georgia Tech 15-8. Syracuse also 15-8. So every game so meaningful here in Greensboro.
So, Obi, what you're telling me is, according to Joey Brackets, if the Blue Devils knock off Louisville in tomorrow's game, that means that Louisville will now be in danger of not making the NCAA tournament?
Now, I wouldn't say that, and I didn't say that. But that's what it says on the screen, and that's what I think Joe Lunardi may be implying. And this is what Joe does. I got to believe that Louisville's done enough. They've had some great wins. They've had a lot of COVID issues, of course, as well, like so many others have. Wake Forest on top, 72-63. And the kick into the corner. Williamson again will deliver. We'll talk about some key shots. He's made a number.
And back-to-back threes for Daivien Williamson out of the timeout. What was a 6-point game, now a 12-point game because of his hot shooting.
Hubb will let it fly, but it's in and out. Rebound tipped out. Now he's going to drive it and score. And under 7 to go here. And every time it looks like Notre Dame is going to be knocked out of this thing, they come right on back and cut it back to 10 or inside, which is where it is now. 75-65
It's a 10-point game between Wake and Notre Dame, and good news is that Cormac Ryan, who took a pretty good shot to his hip, went into the locker room to have it looked at, but I'm told that he will return, and he has just come back out of the locker room. Looks like he's trying to warm up a bit in the bench area for Notre Dame, and that would be nice to get him back to finish out this game. He's tied for the team lead with 14 points, guys.
Nope, there he is, back out in the bench area, so that's a very good sign for the Fighting Irish. They really need him down the stretch here, trailing by 10. That's a very hot hand when he gets rolling.
Really has the ability to shoot, but also to be able to make plays attacking the basket for himself and his teammates. And you go back when he went out of the game, it was a 6-point game off of an offensive rebound that he was able to put back in.
Leszewski, who's been in foul trouble, big hunk of the night. The spin and off the iron has not been his evening. Dubois slashing inside. Good defense on him. Prentiss thought about a three. Sips the pass, goes to Durham for the easy two.
Nice passing on the interior. Not a lot of space, but yet Juwan Durham able to gather that and finish it over the top.
Whistle here, 75-67. Under 6 minutes to go in Greensboro.
And Hubb finding Nate Leszewski, who's had a trouble finishing around the rim. No trouble for Juwan Durham as he drops it off. Nice pass. And Durham able to finish it through. 8-point game right now as we take a break.
Be back tonight after our game to break it all down and look ahead at tomorrow's second round games. They've been very busy today. Kelsey, Luke, and Carlos doing great work right here on the ACC network and ESPN app.
You said Carlos. I almost wasn't sure who you were talking about there. That's booze.
I know, it's booze. Williamson to set it up. He's been dynamite here his last several possessions. He's been the go-to guy. He's going to spin again, but not this time. Notre Dame looking to cut in, plenty of time, 5 minutes to go, and a big drive there by Hubb for two. He's been so quiet tonight, but down the stretch we shall see.
It really makes you wonder why Prentiss Hubb hasn't done that more often. And earlier in this game, not much resistance at all at the rim. It's not as though Wake Forest plays with a great shot blocker. And even if they do go after the shot block, you've got Juwan Durham there to clean up the mess. You would expect to see more of that from Hubb, as well as Dane Goodwin, Wertz, all the guards for Notre Dame attacking the basket more.
Shot clock a factor now. Down to 5. Dubois getting ready to make a drive and a blocking foul. That's with 2 seconds on the shot clock.
And Prentiss Hubb just trying to get over, knowing that he's going to take a big hit from Ian Dubois, but unable to get in position. Dubois definitely initiated the contact on that possession. However, Hubb not in position to be able to take the offensive foul.
Six-point lead for Wake. They'll swing to Dubois again. He's going to step back and fire. Left it short. Durham tried to save it, and Wake's going to keep it.
But you can tell Cormac Ryan going after that loose ball is not 100%. He was very restricted trying to chase that down. You can tell that hip is bothering him as you watch him run.
Boy, this is a long defensive effort for Notre Dame. They've got to be tired already, but look at Durham rise up to block the shot. Hubb under some pressure could not connect.
And you like the attack by Hubb, but Prentiss Hubb went to the basket that possession looking for a call in comparison to concentrating on just finishing off the layup. Got where he wanted to be, but came away without the points.
Whip from the corner. Boy, that one really would have stung Notre Dame. On the iron, it will not drop, and Ryan comes out of there with it, in pain or not. He continues to play hard. Jogo gave it up way downtown, and the triple. And a big shot by Trey Wertz.
And we've got a one-possession game now. We're wondering if Notre Dame can get enough stops to get back into this game. They've done that as of late. Now a 9-0 run over the last 4 minutes.
Carter Witt with the kick. Here's Mucius. No. Loose ball, big battle. Notre Dame wins that one. Down by just 3 points under 3 minutes to go. Hubb with a three. Got it! And he's tied the game at 75. Well, quite a run here. A 12-0 run over the last nearly 5 minutes for the Fighting Irish.
And speaking of runs, Prentiss Hubb got Mike Bray running down the sideline. Prentiss Hubb recognizing we've got a 3-point game coming down, probing, and finding his look from beyond the 3-point line, knocking it down. To the delight of his coach, Mike Bray, we've got a tie game.
ACC Network Basketball is brought to you by New York Life, helping people act on their love for 175 years. Wake Forest led by 16 points with 15:56 to go, but the Irish have come storming back. In fact, Wake has not scored a point in about 5 minutes. And we are tied. 75-75.
12-0 run over the last 4, 27 for Notre Dame after back-to-back threes from Daivien Williamson. Wake Forest has not scored in over 5 minutes. So when you think about where they're going to get their points going down the stretch, going to Ian DeBose, who's unable to come up with a bucket, but another possession for Wake Forest.
Masood misfiring on the three, but they keep getting, 2 and 3 cracks at it. Notre Dame's only lead was when it was 2-0. Trying to get back in front. And the foul. And that will send Prentiss Hubb to the line.
And I love the way Prentiss Hubb has attacked in the latter stages of this game. Passive early, and everything was from beyond the 3-point arc. But you see now Prentiss Hubb putting it in drive, getting to the free throw line, and an opportunity to take the first lead since 2-0 for the Fighting Irish.
And he does on the 4th foul by Ian DeBose, by the way. With 1:54 to go. Hubb, good foul shooter, 76%. He's had a much better second half, and he puts them up by 2. So here we go. Notre Dame in a 14-0 run over the last 5.5. Witt back for Williamson. DuBose looking inside. Shot clock down to 7. Mucius slicing in. No.
And credit Juwan Durham. 6'11", 7 feet, sliding his feet, staying in front of the quicker Mucius and affecting that shot at the rim for a big stop for Notre Dame. And we talked about they need 80 to win. They're knocking on the door of 80 right now.
Hubb looking to make a move, looking at a screen, fires the 3. Off target. Rebound back to Wake. Now the Demon Deacons have missed their last 10 shots and finally hit one. On the money, Carter Witt, the freshman, to tie it at 77.
Big shot by Carter Witt. Taking advantage of his momentum and putting the defender on his heels. The pull-up 2. And you got to love the confidence of Carter Witt playing in his first ACC tournament when his team needed him most. The in and out, the pull-up, the tie ball game.
They had not scored in forever. They had missed 10 straight shots. He has 13. Coming up on half a minute to go. Jogo from the corner. Can't connect, and Wake has it again. 25 seconds left here in Greensboro. Well, quite a finish in this one. Williamson has been the hot hand. Tied at 77. 10 seconds to go. Now down to 6. He makes the move, and a block by Ryan. Ryan across midcourt. Here's the long one. At the buzzer! A three-point shot by Trey Wertz. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Notre Dame 80-77. A game winner at the horn for the Fighting Irish as they come storming back to win it. Well, Ryan really digging in there, made a heck of a play and brought it across midcourt. The fact he's even standing up right now is kind of a minor miracle.
The presence
what a finish, Corey,
by Cormac Ryan to block the shot, get his eyes on the clock, more importantly knowing how much time he had, as Cormac Ryan pretty much just took over the last possession of this game, defensively getting it done, seeing the clock and knowing he's got Trey Wertz on his side and gets Wertz a great look. And I love the reaction by Trey Wertz going to Cormac Ryan immediately, recognizing what his teammate just did to help Notre Dame win the game with the luck of the Irish.
17-2 the run for Notre Dame at the end to win it. Trey Wertz sticks it. The junior from Charlotte on the money. And Notre Dame pulls out a dandy here in Greensboro.